Hi, in this video you are going to see how to create a custom component in Blazor. For example, we will take a custom text box component so we can see now how to create it. The essential steps what we have to do is first we have to create a template. Then we have to create a class file. Next we have to create a CSS styles. Then use the component. Then render the component. Okay, let me explain about the template. So for the custom text box component, we will create a input text box inside a div element. So how we are going to customize it? If you see the component after the render, it will look like this. So it will have a label text with the enter username with validators along with placeholder name with the border with blue colors. So for that, how we will create a template? The template with the two div inner wrapper of a input element. So what are the things we are going to create as a properties? We will create a is read only, is password box and additional attributes. So how it will work? If you see the Blazor works like it's like a server component we are going to build it out. Okay. So how to create a class? The class must have a cascading parameter of edit context, and second it should have a parameter of value expressions. Third, it should consist of parameter attributes. Fourth, it should consist of field identifier which will be created in onInitialize override method. Let me show you the another thing. What are the styles we are going to set for our input text box? For the text box input, we are going to add a box shadow and then border along with paddings. So whenever you placeholder the whenever you have a placeholder, it will look like a transparent. When you focus it out, that placeholder will become a transparent. When you focus on text box, the border became light blue border bottom. And also even when you not focus, the border bottom will be there with the blue colors. So let me see in action. First, we have to create a file like rtextbox.razor. Then we have to create a file rtextbox.razor.cs. Then we will create a file rtextbox.razor.css. Why you are creating like this? All the three files are the same name along with the extensions will be differ. Why means it will arrange like inner stacks. So first we go and see the cs file. Here we will create a partial class because the template will be a one considered as a partial template, and then this will be bind along with this class. So it how it will work is the template is also considered as a rtextbox and the cs class also we consider as a rtextbox. So what is there in the I entity? If you go inside, you can see the I entity will have a one parameter ID. This is a common parameter we should derive it or implement it. The next thing, dictionary attributes. Why you have to declare this? Whenever we are not mapping any parameter, then that uncaptured values all comes under these attributes. So our next one is edit context, which will be a cascading parameter. How means in your reference, we will add our text box inside the edit form. So this edit form will comes under here. This edit context will comes under here. So we are using the cascading parameter. Next one is value expression. That is a return type of expression along with function string. If you see this will used by default bind value. Whenever you are going to two-way bind your model with your text box or a component, we have to use this value expression by default with the return type of the value type. So when you are passing a parameter of model inside your bind value, we have to create the value expression for that. Then the required parameters like label style, text box style, label text placeholders, label for color. I am mentioning the default value for these parameters. The parameter is a keyword attribute which will consider as a parameter for the custom components. So now we see how we will create it. We have a two event callback which is considered as the methods which will be invoked from our outside of the referring from the outside of the our component and referring it here. So we get on click and value changed. The first step is on after renderer. This is the method which will execute after renderer. We are considering the first render and we are assigning a value of GUID to the input ID and for ID. Why? Because in the template, if you see in the template, every input should have an ID. For that, we are binding it using the at attribute, and we have an ID for our wrapper class. Here we are assigning it using the at ID. That's the one thing. The next step is on initialize. This is the important part. We have to create a field identifier like field identifier dot create value expression. Let me show you the same thing. Field identifier field identifier field identifier dot create. Inside that we have to pass the value expression what it is used under the bind property value expression. This will create a field identifier object. What we have to do is if field identifier dot field name is not equal to null, then we have to notify the edit context, notify the field change. This is the only method where we are notifying back to the edit context that we are the field is changed, field value is changed. Okay, so other next two thing is if you go to our template. Okay, in this template we will see the on click event in the on the type of input on click we will call the text box clicked method. Okay, in this text box clicked method we are checking the on click is as a delegate. Okay, if it is has a delegate, then we will call the event callback of on click event. Where we declared it, we are declared it here, event callback of on click. And one more thing, we have the value changed. Where this will be get called, if you see, whenever we are changing the value, so we are have a input event which is binded to the on changed event handler. So it will have the value and is assigning it back to the text box value. So currently value is changed. So we are assigning a value change event handler with the value and we are notifying it as state as changed. And then the important point is we have to mention field identifier dot field name is not null. Then we are notified back to the edit context that field is changed. So this is the overall. We have to see like that when you create a class, the first parameter is cascading parameter, it is done. The second is value expression, it is done. Third is attribute, it is done. Fourth is create a field identifier, it is also done. How we are assigning it to the template? If you see, the attribute is assigned in the input text box as at attributes equal to attributes. So this is mandatory, attribute is mandatory one. Then on input we are changing the value for value changed. Then on click event handler, how we are changing the styles using the input properties like parameters, we are assigning it like at text box height is a px to the height of the style, and we are having one more property, its name like text box style, it's a string value. We are getting the value as a style and we are rendering it here directly in the style property. So let me see the output. If you run the application, it is running. So before one, we have to show you that how we are accessing it. This is the component name. This is the component name RTextbox. We are sharing the label text as I enter user info, username, placeholder username. On click event is binded to the text box click, and the bind value property is going to the profile info dot user dot text value. This is two-way binding. So this will be binded this property to the R text box. How we have to do, whenever we are assigning the text box inside edit form, we have to mention the text box custom component inside the edit form, and we have to pass the profile info model where it is used. Here we are using creating a class called profile, where we have the properties like user info, and then boolean properties is there, along with mentioning the required and error messages. So how it is works, whenever it is mentioned as a require, then we have to pass the error message for that. So if the value is not passed, then it will be rendering the validation summary and validator um, validation message. So for example, here we create the edit context and profile info as a model. So how it works, on the override we will create a empty context, empty edit context with a parameter of this property. Okay, profile info is the property, we are assigning it to the edit context. Now how we have to use it, we have to create edit form tag and pass the property to the model. Now how it works, whenever we have a property value changed in the text box, the value will be binded to the text value property. If you are not giving any values, then this this property have a required mirror messages. This message will be seen in the here, the validation message. Here the error message will be shown. How it is shown, we have to mention the validation message with a property name for. Inside the for, we have to assign the same value expression. So from this, the validation message, it will take the error message for that property. So how it will look like, if you see the component, this is the component we are rendering. Here it will show the error message, please enter the username, until we are supplying the value like here as a ADF or any other string contents. If you remove the value, it will show you the validation message. So this is the entire context of this tutorial, how to create a custom component in Blazor. We're taking the text box as a custom component or text box. Thanks guys. Please subscribe, like and comment the video.